Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Jason. Today I'll be sharing how to do Warrior 1 and Warrior 2, the misalignment that we may encounter, and the variation that we can get into from these two poses. So let's begin. Okay, so there are actually four ways of getting into your Warrior 1 and Warrior 2, and there are your standing Tarasana, your chair pose, your standing forward triangle, or your standing side triangle, and lastly, your standing forward fold triangle, or your standing side fold triangle, which is your Trikonasana. So let's talk about the Tarasana first. So in Tarasana, if you actually want to feel more challenging towards your stability, you may allow your feet to join together. But if you actually want to feel more grounded, you may allow to have your feet to slightly wider apart. So that is your stand. So the next thing that you need to do is actually having your core activate to allow your hips to slightly tilt back. Once you activated your core, the next thing that we need to do is having your supporting leg, in my case, my left leg, to press firmly against the floor to give me an upward lifting motion, so that my lift the leg may be easy and feel light to lift up. Then next, I may need to have my hips or bums to sink and sit backward like a chair pose in order for my supporting leg to bend and my lifted leg to extend back and land. So once I landed on my lifted leg, what I need to do next is having my supporting leg press against the floor to push me up, so that I'm in a Warrior 1 posture. So once you're here, you need to actually have both your feet pressed firmly against the floor to have the foundation of the pose to be more grounded. And next, reactivation of the core, just in case the moment throughout the process when you actually step the legs back, you have to loosen the core activation. Then lastly, you may actually have your arms throw forward and up to form your Warrior 1. So that is how we get into your Warrior 1. So let's talk about Warrior 2. So Warrior 2 basically shares the similar steps as Warrior 1 as well. So once we actually step towards our lunge formation, what we need to do is having our back thigh rotate out in order for the heels to drop down. And then our front leg have to press firmly against the floor to push our torso up. Next one, we need to have both the feet to push against the floor to give our foundation to be more grounded. Then follows with our core activation. Then slowly we can actually have our arms extend by the side of the shoulder, follows with the chin, drawing to the collarbone and look towards arm. So that's how we get into your Warrior 2 pose. So let's recap from the top for our Warrior 1 first. So the first thing, our stand. Second thing, activation of the core. The third thing, we need to press firmly against the floor with our supporting leg in order for us to lift the leg. So from here, the fourth one, sinking the hips back into your chair pose in order to bend the supporting leg and extend the lifted leg. So from here, once we land onto our lunge pose, the fifth thing that we need to do is press firmly against the supporting leg to push our torso up. The sixth one, press firmly against both feet against the floor to have a more sturdy and more grounded formation of the pose. So 7, have the core reactivate. Number 8, slowly have the arms throw forward and up over the head to form your Warrior 1. Okay, so let's recap for our Warrior 2. Let's do together. So the first one would be the foundation, the stand. Second, the activation of the core. Third one, press firmly against the floor with one of the leg, which is our supporting leg, in order for us to lift the leg. Fourth one, moving your hips back into your chair pose to have your extended legs to step back. Fifth one, having the extended leg, the thigh of the extended leg rotate out to come to your Warrior 2 stand. 6, having the supporting leg, which is the front leg, to push your torso up to come to your Warrior 2. 7, having both your feet pressed firmly against the floor to have a steady formation or foundation. So number 8, reactivation of the core. 9, having the arms extend by the side of the shoulder. Number 10, having the chin draw in closer to your collarbone and look towards your shoulder. So that is your step to your Warrior 2. So these are the steps to get into your Warrior 1 and Warrior 2 from Tarasana. So let's discuss about the remaining 3 poses. Okay, after going through with the tutorial earlier, getting into your Warrior 1 and Warrior 2 with the remaining 3 poses is actually relatively quite easy. So let's start off with our chair pose first. So once we are in our chair pose, what we need to do is having our supporting leg. Let's say for my case, it's my left leg right now. I just need to press my left leg, my supporting leg against the floor firmly to give me an upward lifting motion in order for my lifted leg to lift up and extend backward. So from here, I either may actually come to my Warrior 1 stand or my Warrior 2 stand. So Once you're here, what you need to do next is just to have your supporting leg, which is your front leg, to press against the floor to push you up. And the next thing is to activate your core. Same goes to your warrior two. So once you land onto your legs, you just need to have your back thigh to rotate out and have your front leg to push you to rise up into your warrior two. So that's how you get into your warrior one and warrior two from your chair pose. So let's talk about your forward triangle and your side triangle. So for your forward triangle, what you need to do is first, you need to have your legs to bend forward. So once you bend forward, you are not done from here. You do not throw your arms up first. What you need to do is you need to press your feet firmly against the floor in order to avoid the tension come to your knee. Then finally, you can actually have your arms extend up into your warrior one. As for your warrior two, from your side triangle is the same thing. What you need to do is having your legs bend first and then having both your feet press firmly against the floor to have the tension draw away from the knee towards your quads. And finally, you can throw your arms to the side to form your warrior two. So the next one would be your forward fold triangle or your side fold trikonasana. So let's talk about your forward fold triangle first. Once you're here, you need to actually have your legs bend first. Once you bend your legs, the next thing that you need to do is having the front leg to press against the floor to push you up and rise to your warrior one. Simple as that. So same thing as your trikonasana. So once you're in your trikonasana, what you need to do next is having your legs to your front leg, which is your supporting leg, to bend and press to rise your torso up to come to your warrior two pose. So basically exactly the same step as your Tarasana as we get into your warrior one and warrior two. So let's talk about our misalignment that we may encounter in warrior one and warrior two. Okay, next let's talk about the misalignment that we may encounter as we get into warrior one and warrior two. So basically warrior one and warrior two share the similar misalignment as they both actually build up on the same foundation, which is the lunge pose. So let's talk about the first misalignment that we may encounter. So as you notice, as we get into the pose, some of us may have our knees drop in front of the toes. Technically, that is not wrong if we have the proper muscle activated. But if we don't, we may actually feel the tension accumulated onto our knees instead of the quads. That's why it's advisable for us to get into chair pose first as we land into the lunge pose. That is the misalignment one. Second misalignment that we may encounter is the placement of the knee. As we get into the warrior one and warrior two, you may notice some of us may have our knees dropped side by side. The way to counter this issue is not having the thigh realign back or move side by side. You can actually notice and check what is happening towards my foot as I move my thigh side by side. It actually will tip my balance off for the foundation. So what would be best is having the four corner of the foot, of my supporting foot, to press firmly against the floor to let my knee realign back with my hips and my foot. Okay, I repeat, let's say if I have my knees dropped to the side, what I need to do is have my feet press firmly against the floor to allow my knees to realign back with my hips and my foot. That is the second misalignment that we may encounter. So the third misalignment is the hips. As we get into the pose, you may notice some of us may have our hips overly tilted forward. Okay, so the way to counter this issue is to have our core reactivated. So that is the misalignment 3 that we may encounter. The fourth misalignment, which is the flaring of the ribs. As we get into the pose, you may actually notice some of us may have our ribs pop forward. So what we need to do is having the ribs and the entire core to suck in to come back towards the center. That is the fourth misalignment. So last but not least, the fifth misalignment that we may encounter is the placement of the neck. So you will notice in the tutorial, I'll advise you to actually have the chin to draw in as we turn the neck to the side instead of having the head turn directly to its side. So why I would say so is because you can actually check out what happened towards my chin and my shoulder. As I have my head turned directly towards my shoulder, this is the distance between my chin and my shoulder. But if I have my chin draw closer towards my collarbone and draw a U shape and look towards my shoulder, the distance between my chin and my shoulder is slightly closer and I feel less tension around my neck. So these are the misalignment that I actually could think of. So let's talk about the variation that we can get into for Warrior 1 and Warrior 2. Okay, now we have come to the part where we are all excited about to discuss the variation that we can get into for Warrior 1 and Warrior 2. So for starter, if you actually want to train onto your muscle endurance, you can actually stay in the pose of Warrior 1 or Warrior 2 for 30 seconds and take a 10-second interval break and then come back to the pose again for another 30 seconds. That is for muscle endurance. But for those of you who want to train onto your muscle explosiveness, your muscle stability, and your muscle elasticity, you can actually do the following pose. So first, you need to get into your Warrior 1 first. And once you're here, what you need to do next is actually bound for yourself forward and have your weights landed onto your supporting leg, which is your front leg. And from here, your supporting leg need to press firmly against the floor to give you an upward lifting motion. As you exhale, you may sit your bums back and step back to your Warrior 1 pose. So if you find that this intensity and speed is actually still too slow for you, you can actually add up the intensity by lifting up higher and exhale, step back. And lift up higher and exhale, step back. But if you find that the intensity is still too slow for you, you want more, you can actually add up a jump by lifting up high and step back. Lifting up high and step back. So let's do it one more time. Lift up high and step back. So this is the second variation that you can actually get into. So the third variation is actually more of your training onto your muscle stability. So what you can do is same thing. You need to get into your Warrior 1 pose, but the back heels need to lift up. Once you're here, your eyes should actually gaze towards the side and come back to center. So why you want to do this pose is actually to train onto your muscle stability for your supporting leg, so that not to let the legs wobble here and there. But if you find that just turning your heads is a little bit dull and a little bit boring, you can actually do a wider range of motion by lifting your hands up. And imagine there's a demon in front of you. You can slay the demon off. As you inhale, press the supporting leg against the floor to rise you up. Exhale, slay the demon off, and inhale, rise up. And you can add up the intensity based on your lights as you're going down and up. So that is your third variation that you can get into. So the fourth variation that you can get into is to train onto your muscle elasticity of your hips flexor. Same thing, you can get into your Warrior 1 first. Once you are in your Warrior 1 with the heels up, as you inhale, relax the entire body. Exhale, suck the lower core in to allow the hips to tilt back as you bend your knees down. As you inhale, press the back leg, the ball of the feet of the back leg to rise you up. Exhale, scoop the hips in to drop yourself down. Inhale, press the ball of the feet to rise you up. Exhale, scoop the hips inward to drop down. So that is the fourth variation that you can get into. So the fifth variation you can get into is your Warrior 2, double Warrior 2, like a sumo leg. So once you're in a sumo stand, what you need to do is having both your feet pressed firmly against the floor to give you an uplifting motion. So what you can do here is bouncing up and down. I know it's a little bit weird, but this one is actually training onto your glutes and your hamstring and your quads, the outer part of your hamstring and your quads, as you're bouncing up and down. If you find that this is a little bit boring, if you want to make it funny, you can actually bounce up, down, and move to side. Bounce down, up, and move to side. Okay, you can actually do any sort of funny variation as you prefer. So this one is actually training onto your bums a lot. That is the fifth variation that you can get into. So the sixth variation, which is an asana that you can get into, is your Virabhadrasana, your full triangle. You can actually, from your Warrior 1, straighten up your legs and bound for yourself forward into your Virabhadrasana. That is your sixth variation. Your second variation is your Trikonasana. So imagine you're in your Warrior 2 pose. So as you want to get into your Trikonasana, you just need to straighten up your legs and allow your hips to tilt as you slowly land your upper body to the side. So this is the sixth variation that you can get into. So basically, this is the few variation that I could think of, and I believe there are more to that. So if you actually can think of any variation or any modification for your Warrior 2 and Warrior 1, feel free to actually comment on the channel below so that we can actually share and learn from each other. So this is the end of the video, and if you like my video, feel free to like it, share it, subscribe, and hit the bell. So thank you and namaste.